Columbia Pictures, Stage 12, December 1945. The sound stage exists in perpetual twilight, where massive Klieg lights carve geometric shadows through cigarette smoke, and the metallic scent of hot film equipment mingles with the aroma of black coffee and nervous perspiration. This is where dreams take physical form, where human emotion becomes commodity, where the impossible alchemy of cinema transforms ordinary moments into eternal memory. The set of Gilda sprawls across the stage like a fever dream made manifest, all angular shadows and suggestive lighting that speaks of moral ambiguity and dangerous desire. Art director Stephen Goosen has created a world where virtue and vice blur into indistinguishable shades of gray, where every surface reflects hidden meaning, and every doorway promises revelation or ruin. The atmosphere crackles with creative tension, that electric feeling that emerges when talented people push themselves beyond their normal limitations in pursuit of something extraordinary. Crew members move with the focused efficiency of craftsmen who understand they are participating in the creation of something significant, something that will outlive them all. Glenn Ford stands in the wings, 29 years old, and radiating the kind of controlled intensity that marks him as an actor willing to risk everything for authenticity. His wartime service in the Navy has given him a deeper understanding of human nature under pressure, knowledge that now informs his approach to complex characters who exist in moral gray areas. Ford has spent weeks preparing for the role of Johnny Farrell, diving deep into the psychology of a man caught between loyalty and desire, between what he knows to be right and what he cannot help feeling. The character lives in Ford's bloodstream now, influencing his posture, his breathing, his way of processing the world around him. Rita Hayworth occupies her dressing room like a queen holding court, 27 years old, and already established as one of Hollywood's most captivating screen presences. But tonight, preparing for one of Gilda's most emotionally demanding scenes, Hayworth exists not as a star but as an artist, someone willing to expose the rawest parts of human experience for the sake of truth. If you want to see more stories about Hollywood legends who risked everything to create authentic emotional truth, subscribe to Glenn Ford Hidden Legacy. The friendship between Ford and Hayworth extends beyond professional collaboration into genuine personal connection, a bond forged through shared understanding of what it means to pursue excellence in an industry that often rewards surface appeal over substantial achievement. They trust each other completely, both as artists and as human beings, a trust that will be tested in ways neither of them anticipates. Director Charles Vidor paces the set with the restless energy of a man who sees the film's potential and refuses to accept anything less than perfection. Vidor understands that Gilda represents something new in American cinema, a story that explores adult themes with unprecedented sophistication, and he demands performances that match the material's emotional complexity. The scene they are preparing to film exists at the heart of the narrative, a moment when years of suppressed emotion explode into violence and revelation. Johnny Farrell, discovering what he believes to be ultimate betrayal by the woman he loves, confronts Gilda with rage that has been building throughout the entire story. Ford has been preparing for this moment all day, allowing Johnny's anger to build within him like pressure in a steam engine. Method acting techniques are still emerging in American theater, but Ford has developed his own approach to emotional authenticity, a process that requires him to blur the line between performance and reality. As evening approaches and the crew prepares for the critical take, Ford feels Johnny's rage coursing through his veins like acid. The character's sense of betrayal has become his own, the fictional relationship's complexity transformed into genuine emotional experience. This is dangerous territory for any actor, but Ford has committed himself to finding truth regardless of personal cost. Vidor calls for final rehearsal, and Ford and Hayworth take their positions in the carefully lit living room set. The scene requires Ford to confront Hayworth with accusations that will shatter their relationship forever, emotions running so high that violence becomes inevitable. Remember, Vidor calls from behind the cameras. This is the moment when everything breaks open. Johnny has reached his limit, nothing held back. The rehearsal proceeds with professional control, both actors indicating their movements and emotional beats without full commitment. But Ford can feel Johnny stirring beneath the surface, the character's rage seeking release like a wild animal testing its cage. "That's good," Vidor announces. "But I need more, much more." Glenn. Johnny is beyond rational thought here. This woman has destroyed everything he believed about love and loyalty. Rita. Gilda knows she deserves his anger, but refuses to show weakness. These are two people who love each other enough to destroy each other. The crew resets for the actual take, adjusting lights and checking camera angles while Ford and Hayworth return to their starting positions. The set falls into the profound silence that always precedes significant moments in filmmaking, that sense of collective breath-holding while artists prepare to risk everything. Ford closes his eyes and summons Johnny Farrell from wherever fictional characters live before they inhabit an actor's body. The transformation is visible to anyone watching carefully, a subtle shift in posture and breathing that announces the arrival of someone else entirely. Hayworth undergoes her own metamorphosis, becoming Gilda with the fluid grace of water taking the shape of its container. She is no longer Rita Hayworth, beloved star and devoted friend. She is a woman who has used love as a weapon and must now face the consequences of that choice. "Action," Vidor calls quietly. The scene begins with tense dialogue, accusations and counter-accusations building toward inevitable explosion. Ford moves through Johnny's lines with increasing intensity, each word carrying more weight than the last. Hayworth matches his energy with defensive pride that gradually crumbles under the assault of his rage. The cameras roll silently, capturing nuances of performance that will be studied by film students for decades. But something is happening beyond mere acting, something that transcends the boundary between fiction and reality. Ford's anger builds beyond the scripted requirements, Johnny's betrayal becoming genuinely personal. The weeks of preparation, the emotional commitment to the character, the absolute trust between performers, creates a perfect storm of authentic feeling that threatens to overwhelm professional control. Hayworth recognizes the change in Ford's energy but continues the scene with professional courage, trusting that his commitment to the work will protect them both. She has worked with many leading men, but none who bring Ford's level of emotional honesty to their performances. The moment arrives when Johnny's rage finally erupts into physical action. The script calls for a slap, a moment of violence that punctuates the emotional climax and propels the story toward its resolution. Ford draws back his hand, and for a split second exists in perfect balance between Glenn Ford the actor and Johnny Farrell the character. The slap connects with the sound of a gunshot. The impact reverberates through the sound stage like thunder, so sharp and unexpected that several crew members jump involuntarily. Ford's hand has delivered not the controlled stage slap of professional theater, but the genuine blow of a man consumed by rage and betrayal. Hayworth staggers backward, her head snapping to one side with the force of the impact. For a moment, genuine shock replaces performed emotion on her face. The blow has loosened two of her teeth and filled her mouth with the metallic taste of blood. But even as pain floods through her, Hayworth remains in character. Some deep professional instinct keeps Gilda alive even as Rita experiences the physical shock of unexpected violence. Her eyes fill with tears that are simultaneously authentic and performed. Real pain and fictional suffering merged into something indistinguishable. The scene continues for another 30 seconds, Ford and Hayworth completing their dialogue with voices slightly changed by what has just occurred. Then Vidor's voice cuts through the tension with professional authority. "Cut! Print it!" The silence that follows is profound and uncomfortable, broken only by the whisper of film moving through camera mechanisms and the distant hum of electrical equipment. 40 cast and crew members stand frozen, unsure how to respond to what they have witnessed. Ford blinks once, twice, and Glenn Ford the actor returns to his own body like a man waking from a particularly vivid dream. The first thing he sees is Hayworth touching her jaw with tentative fingers. The first thing he feels is horror at what Johnny's rage has accomplished. "Rita," Ford whispers, rushing to her side with genuine panic in his voice. "Jesus, Rita, I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. I lost myself completely." Hayworth looks at him for a long moment, her eyes still bright with unshed tears. Then, instead of anger or accusation, her face breaks into a smile that transforms her entire appearance. "Don't apologize, Glenn," she says, her voice slightly thick due to her loosened teeth. "That was it. That was exactly what the scene needed." I felt Johnny's rage, his betrayal, his love underneath all that anger. "You weren't acting anymore. You were him." Ford stares at her in disbelief. "Rita, I hurt you. Really hurt you. Look at your mouth." Hayworth touches her jaw again, wincing slightly. "It's nothing that won't heal. But what you just gave me, what you gave the scene, that's something we could never have achieved with careful control. You trusted the character enough to let him take over completely." The crew gradually returns to their normal activities, but the atmosphere on set has changed permanently. Everyone present understands they have witnessed something extraordinary, a moment when performance transcended craft and became something approaching genuine human truth. Vidor approaches the two actors with visible satisfaction, understanding that the take they have just completed represents the heart of his film. "That's what I've been looking for," he says simply. "That's what makes this movie different from everything else we've done." Ford spends the rest of the evening attending to Hayworth, ensuring she receives proper medical attention and expressing repeated apologies for his loss of control. But Hayworth refuses to accept his guilt, insisting that his commitment to authenticity represents the highest form of respect for their shared craft. The incident becomes part of Columbia Pictures folklore, one of those stories that circulate quietly among industry professionals who understand the difference between mechanical competence and genuine artistry. But more than that, it becomes the foundation of a friendship that will endure for the next 4 decades. Ford and Hayworth develop a professional and personal bond based on absolute trust and mutual respect for each other's commitment to authentic performance. They understand that great art sometimes requires genuine risk, that the most powerful moments on screen emerge when actors are willing to abandon the safety of technique for the uncertainty of truth. In years to come, when interviewers ask Ford about his approach to emotional scenes, he often references that night on stage 12. "Sometimes you have to trust the character enough to let them take over completely," he says. "Rita taught me that the audience knows the difference between performed emotion and genuine feeling. They may not be able to articulate it, but they know." Hayworth carries the physical reminder of that evening for months, waiting for her loosened teeth to stabilize and heal. But she never regrets the price paid for authenticity, understanding that some truths can only be captured when artists are willing to risk genuine vulnerability. Gilda becomes a landmark of American cinema, a film that explores adult themes with unprecedented sophistication and emotional honesty. Critics and audiences recognize something different in the performances, a level of authenticity that elevates the material beyond mere entertainment into genuine art. The scene itself becomes iconic, studied in film schools, and analyzed by critics who sense its power without fully understanding its origins. Those who know the story behind the performance recognize it as a perfect example of what can be achieved when talented artists trust each other enough to explore dangerous emotional territory. Ford's career flourishes in the years following Gilda, with directors specifically seeking him out for roles that require emotional complexity and psychological depth. His reputation as an actor willing to commit completely to difficult characters becomes one of his defining professional characteristics. Hayworth's friendship with Ford endures through marriages, divorces, career changes, and personal struggles, a constant in both their lives that provides stability in an inherently unstable industry. They understand that they shared something special that evening on stage 12. A moment of genuine artistic achievement that justified every risk they took to capture it. For more stories about Hollywood legends who risked everything to create authentic emotional truth, subscribe to Glenn Ford Hidden Legacy.